Says we're live.
Hi, I'm Julia Kelly, and I am a romance author coming to you with two other wonderful romance authors, and we are all going to be talking about holiday traditions, what we like to drink, what we like to write, and everything Christmas, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, New Year's, the whole deal. So I'm going to start off and invite Lexi to tell us a little bit about who she is and also, more importantly, what she's drinking.
Hi, I am Alexis Anne. I write some steamy romances, and today I am drinking Fat Tire beer. It's very delicious. I put it in a nice frosty glass to enhance the flavor. It's one of our favorites, and it's new to Florida, so we are drinking it up like it's crack. I'll toss it over to our friend Mary Chris.
Hi, I'm Mary Chris Escobar, and I write women's fiction, contemporary women's fiction, sort of romantic comedy. We have Colorado well represented. I am drinking the Breckenridge Vanilla Porter in honor of the season, I guess, sort of. I was really wanting some Troegs Mad Elf, which is my favorite seasonal beer, but did not make it to the store. So cheers to the Colorado breweries.
Cheers.
And as I said, I'm Julia Kelly, and I'm deviating from the Colorado theme tonight, although I wish I had known about it. I would have figured out something Colorado I could have drunk. I am, don't judge me, I'm drinking bourbon right now. It's a very long day at work, and the bourbon is on the bar cart in my apartment. And it is Jefferson's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, so the good stuff.
Very nice.
Yes, I always enjoy it, probably more than I should.
Is it more of a bitter?
No, it's very smooth and it's very sweet, which is good for me. So I really love old fashions. So
I have a bottle of that right behind me.
Beautiful. There you go. I knew we were friends for a reason.
Yes.
So as I said, we're talking holidays and holiday traditions, considering we just wrapped up Thanksgiving, which is rather late this year, and we're kind of heading into the full-on sprint to Christmas and the New Year. It's also the last night of Hanukkah today, so so I thought we would go ahead and start talking about holiday romances and kind of whether we read them, and then we'll get into whether we write holidays into our romances. So Lexi, do you want to start?
It was actually an interesting subject when it came up because I had never really paid attention to holidays and romance until you informed us of your novella addiction.
Which I'll be talking about later.
So I had to stop and think about it. There are a couple of books that popped into my mind as to interesting reads that had holidays in them. But one of the fun things that, for me, that came along was that I actually paid attention to the fact that I had never personally written a holiday into anything that I had ever written before. So I'm not the best person to talk to about this, but I did read a novella this week for the first time. It's called Holiday Hoopla. It's by a brand new author, and it's coming out next week. It's her debut, and so that was a fun and exciting thing to kind of spice up my holidays with. It was a fun, quick romance to read. It was good.
All right, Mary Chris?
I also have never read a holiday novella. When we started talking about ideas for this chat, I realized I really can't think of anything particularly holiday specific that I've read, which was interesting. I really did, and I went and looked at my bookshelves, and I might have a few, maybe a few books of short stories, but nothing really. I do we have a family tradition where my dad was a librarian, an elementary school librarian, and so my parents give me a children's book every year. So I have a lot of children's books for Christmas on my bookshelf, but definitely no holiday romances. I do, not necessarily on purpose, but I have written New Year's Eve into my most recent novella. It actually opens on New Year's Eve. And my current work in progress, I have a scene the day after Thanksgiving. But again, not really intentionally, just kind of how it happened.
I love the idea of the children's book for Christmas.
Yeah.
I absolutely love children's books, so that just sounds wonderful to me. But All right, so we've mentioned I have a Christmas novella addiction, and I'm pretty unashamed about it. And actually, I was laughing because this year I intended to spend. I had a 4-day weekend starting actually on Friday of Thanksgiving and not on the Thursday because I was working. But I I intended to buy a whole bunch of Christmas novellas and thought I had, and realized that I either mixed up or I was given false information about a couple of these novellas. But so I've read some other things other than Christmas novellas over this holiday weekend, but I started reading them because I couldn't get home for the Thanksgiving holiday. Since I work as a news producer, it's a really tough turnaround getting from work to the airport and then flying home to Los Angeles and then doing all the holiday stuff and getting back on a plane. So Christmas makes a lot more sense to me, but in the run-up to Christmas, when I'm not around my family, I binge on romance and always have. So I started, I think the first one that I read was Linda Leigh Miller's The Christmas Brides, which if I remember correctly is a dual novel, and it's one of her, it's dual novellas, and it's one of her many series. I think it's the McKittricks, but I'm not 100% sure. I've read so many of them at this point that I couldn't really tell you. But The Christmas Brides was the first kind of gateway drug. And then this year I've read one that I liked in particular, and then I've read a couple of others, including the false advertisement one. But the one I really liked is called Heating Up the Holidays, and it's from Love Swept by Random House. And there are two novellas in it that I've read. One is, I believe, called Snowfall by Mary Ann Rivers, and she writes wonderful, lyric, kind of unusual romances. And this one's about a microbiologist, which was kind of cool. Microbiologist actually losing her sight, and she has a thing with an online gentleman as well as her occupational therapist as she's starting to lose her field of vision. So it's a really, really interesting take on kind of the more traditional romance. And then a little bit more traditional in terms of romances is Serena Bell's book, which I really enjoyed, called After Midnight, and that's actually a New Year's Eve one. So it's kind of a reverse Cinderella story, and it's set at a New Year's Eve party in Boston. So I really enjoyed that as well, and I actually read them out of order. I read the New Year's Eve one first, and then I read the Christmas one. So if I were to go back and read the very first novella in the book, I would be reading the Thanksgiving one. So I'm just moving slowly backwards in time with this series of books, but those are my my recent Christmas novella, my recommendations. So, so I know we touched a little bit about on writing holidays into romances and whether it's kind of a conscious decision or not. But Mary Chris, do you want to elaborate a little bit on why you chose to focus on New Year's Eve, and then on the novella or on the novel you're working on right now, why Thanksgiving seemed like a good idea?
Yeah. I was really just kind of a timing to follow the story from my novel, and I think New Year's Eve just fell at the right place for sort of moving it forward enough from where the novel ended. The novel ends in September, and I wanted to sort of be able to give readers an update if they had read my novel, give them an update on the main characters, and then, you know, have a different situation with other characters. And so I think it was just the right amount of time had elapsed to have it be New Year's Eve. But then I think it's also just, I wanted to open with a scene with characters together. And I think it's just a really natural thing for friends to be together for the holidays. And so my characters kind of all be gathered together in the same place. My novella also opens with a proposal, and so that could have had something to do with it. I feel like I have some friends that got engaged on New Year's Eve, and so maybe that was kind of playing in the back of my head that that's sort of something that happens sometimes on New Year's Eve or around the holiday season, and so that just kind of all fell together really well. But I'm not sure it was so conscious. It was more just kind of a timing thing and a way to bring the characters together. And similarly, yeah, in my current book, I guess similar. My current work in progress actually follows an academic calendar. So my main character works at a university, and so it's divided into 3 sections. It starts in the summer, so it's a summer, fall, spring kind of 3-part book. And so a piece of that happens around Thanksgiving. And it happens actually the day after Thanksgiving. Interestingly enough, my character works on Thanksgiving in the novel because she is in charge of a residence hall, and so she opts to stay stay there for the Thanksgiving holiday and kind of take that shift because she has friends in town that she can hang out with. And so that was kind of an interesting twist to have her, living in a residence hall on Thanksgiving and spending it with students and old friends. But that was more just because it was the right timing in the book. It's the day after Thanksgiving, which is kind of a common time, I think, to go out with friends if you've been with family. You might, one of my characters is in a band, and so they go to see the band play on the day after Thanksgiving, which I feel like is kind of a common thing that might happen locally around the holidays.
How about you, Lexi? Do you have any experience with kind of incorporating those into your writing?
It was interesting to actually stop and think about all of this because, as I mentioned, I've never consciously put a holiday or even a birthday into anything that I've written, and I realized it was intentional because I get afraid of plot bunnies, and I was afraid that if I followed a holiday, all of a sudden I'd take a left turn and the story would be off somewhere else. I was really afraid of including a holiday, so I've spent the last week thinking about how awesome it would be if we wrote in holidays more often, because you have so much ripe territory in holiday situations. People come together who aren't normally together. There's travel involved in certain situations. There's pressure from the family. Are you guys dating? Are you getting married? Are you having kids? Do I want to spend the holidays with this person I may or may not like that much? Should I keep this person around so that I don't have to interact with my family, and then I'll dump them after the holidays? There's just so much stuff there. How have I not used it? So it's one of my goals to start incorporating that stuff into my books in the future, because now I'm not so afraid of plot bunnies.
Yeah, it's funny. I have the same attitude towards the holidays. They are just ripe. They're a little like weddings. They're just so much, not pomp and circumstance around it, but there's so much ceremony around holidays and so many traditions, and so many things can go right and so many things can go wrong. I find them fascinating, actually, and I really do love weddings, and I love wedding books also, because I really do think they bring out the best and the worst in people, just like the holidays.
I know somebody who wrote a great wedding book.
I know. I wonder who that could be. Yeah, you all should pick up Never Ending Beginnings. And if you haven't, why haven't you?
Exactly.
I think that's definitely the appealing part of them. And I've always wanted to write a standalone Thanksgiving book about a woman who's brought home for the holidays, and her significant other is not the man she ends up with at the end of the book, because he's really actually not all that great, but maybe like the best friend or the brother is. But I haven't written that book yet, but I've in the current book that I'm working on right now, The Mess from NaNoWriMo, there is a Thanksgiving scene in there, and a very significant Thanksgiving scene, and I'm using it as a turning point because, like you said, it does force you to ask some questions about your relationship with the person you're in, and whether you want it to actually go to a serious place, and obviously not every family gets along, so it seems like a good jumping off point for asking some of the questions that maybe people don't necessarily ask themselves until they're forced to. Like, what is this relationship? And do I actually want my family to meet this person? And do I really like my family all that much? So that's kind of, I really enjoy that aspect of the holiday romances. So it's definitely fun.
Yeah. I was thinking about what a great area it is, especially at the beginning of a novel, if you're not basing it around the whole holiday, what a great opportunity that is to show off different emotional and character traits, because they're bouncing off of so many different people. It's such an intense situation. So it's a really great area.
It's true. Like, when else would you sort of get to bring like family and friends and like potential love interest or love interest together? I mean, it would be rare that you would get to do that. I mean, I think a holiday is kind of a unique time when it wouldn't feel forced and contrived to bring all those people together in the same room.
Yeah, you
Because
get
it
to
might
see.
feel forced and contrived if you were there.
Oh yes.
Yes.
You get to see how how their friends think of them versus how their parents think of them versus how their siblings think of them versus how their lover thinks of them, and you get to see all these different sides of that person all in one 2-day period.
Well, and think about all the strangeness that you can bring about families, whether it's funny or weird or poignant. I mean, I remember just telling people that my mother's actually British, so this is not really, Thanksgiving is not, it's always been a big holiday in my family in terms of we always have the dinner and we always eat, but it's been about 9 years since I've been home for a holiday, or for Thanksgiving. So for us, when I was in high school, we would always eat around 7:30 or 8, which is a pretty standard very European time to eat dinner. I think it's becoming more and more American, but people are horrified when I tell them this. The idea of not having Thanksgiving dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to some of my friends is very strange, and so the idea of looking at another family's traditions, no matter what holiday it is, I think is appealing also because it can tell you a lot about the character traits of a person without necessarily saying this person is this way because, and you can do a little bit of show not tell. Yeah, that's the right expression, right? Show not tell.
Right. Yeah.
For that particular character.
Yeah, it was interesting because we spoke on Thanksgiving Day. You said, "Oh, you eat late like us," and my family has always eaten fairly late in the day because we love food. So we spend all day with like courses of food. Typically, there's like 3 appetizer courses, and then in the past there's been different wines that were paired with it, and then you finally get to the actual dinner course, and then there's like the glut that happens afterward, and then dessert, and then the second round of turkey. So we do eat late in my family.
Yes, there's a lot of football watching along with it, and yes. I think your family sounds a lot like my family, although mine tends to be on a very small scale. It's a very intimate Thanksgiving. We've done a few big ones, but not in years.
Yeah, we're usually pretty, just the nuclear family, and now we're getting older, so there's children being born, and all of these men have suddenly appeared in our family. We were all girls, and now I have 2 boys, and my sister and I have gotten married, so all of a sudden the boys outnumber us, and it's this weird new dynamic that's happening.
Yeah,
What
we've
about
always. I'm actually an only child, so my nuclear family is really small. It's just my parents and I. But we really interestingly have some very good friends of my parents and myself who live in Maryland, which is not too far from Virginia where I live, but all their family is in California. So throughout the years, they have been a pretty constant feature at my parents' house for Thanksgiving. And I'm really close with their daughter, who actually has moved to England. So this year was awesome because they were all there. But even when my friend from England isn't in, even typically her parents are at my parents' house for Thanksgiving. So we have this kind of unique and amazing tradition where it's my family, my parents and I, and then my Uncle Alan and Aunt Judy, who aren't really my uncle and aunt, but I grew up with them. When I got married, my husband was like, I thought your parents each had one sibling. Like, who are all these uncles and aunts that you have? I have a lot of, we call them funkles and fonts, fake uncles and fake aunts. So yeah, it's great. I have a lot of great Thanksgiving memories with my sort of hybrid extended family.
That's awesome.
Now, both of you guys are self-published, and I'm in the situation of not having anything out right now, any work out. So I'm very curious in terms of the marketing standpoint. Is there something that's off-putting about holiday romances? Because they do have kind of a shelf life. I know I read them in the roughly 3-4 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then I don't read them for the rest of the year. Is that something that you would be worried about as an author who is putting out self-published work?
As far as I've seen, because I haven't done it yet, but it's kind of a mix of both. On the one hand, it's got a short shelf life, so it's only really good to you November, December, maybe January, so it's not something that's going to benefit you year-round. But on the other side, it's a great marketing tool, especially if you're putting out a short story or a novella. It's short, it's something that you can put out cheaply and quickly, and maybe draw in some new audience who's just looking for something for the holidays and says, oh, I really like your writing. Oh, look, you write all these other books. I'll read them too.
Yeah, I think it could be a really, I've never done it, and I don't even know if it's something I will consider, but if I do think about it, I think the marketing aspect of it would be huge. I think it could be a really interesting, even maybe doing something even shorter than a novella, and I can't think what that would be called, but
a short story.
Yes, thank you. I mentioned earlier I haven't finished dinner, so I also eat late, but yeah, no, I think like a short story or something that you could give away for free. That was very specific to the holidays, but maybe included some characters from a longer work, that might entice people to purchase. I actually think in some ways the marketing of that could be really brilliant if you're thinking about people having time off around the holidays, or perhaps have gotten gift cards or e-readers or new electronic devices. I publish electronically only, so I think about those things. But I think it could be a great, either very inexpensive or even free giveaway depending on the length. I might be something I might put on my list. I think for me, you would have to start writing that not near the holiday season, and that might be that might be hard. Maybe I should try right now to write one for next year.
That was my thought. I'd like to write this book that I have no characters for and no plot for, but have this kind of idea of, and I probably should start now, because maybe by this time next year I will have it in some sort of shape where it would make sense.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'm going to feel like writing about the holidays in May. Exactly. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that.
Well, you brought it up. A lot of authors do put out something very short, 5,000 or 10,000 words, as a gift to their fans. They do give it away for free, PDF on their website. I think our friend Tracy Puckett is thinking of putting one out with her just a little series.
Oh, wow.
As a freebie to her fans. So that got my juices flowing between our conversations, and I put together a few thousand words over the last couple of days for Jake and Eve, so we'll see if it shapes up into something in the next week. Because I should have started doing it months ago, like you guys were saying. But another holiday to think about for the authors out there is Valentine's Day. Now would be a good time to start thinking about maybe putting something together as a freebie or a 99-cent deal for your fans.
Sure. And I will probably end up writing a very bitter Valentine's Day story. They will have a happy ending, but it's one of my least favorite holidays because I am single and I never seem to be dating somebody on Valentine's Day. It is incredible how easily I seem to miss that holiday. I was actually at a wedding at a bachelorette party last Valentine's Day, which was a pretty fantastic use of the holiday. So I think the bride was very sympathetic to her single friends to actually hold some sort of gathering in Florida for that bachelorette party. But
nice.
Yes, it was fantastic. It poured, but it was fantastic. So.
I think there's actually a market for the people who have terrible Valentine's Day experiences. Even for the people who are together, we have terrible Valentine's Day experiences. So you like sometimes reading about them, right? Oh my God, sometimes they're the worst.
we keep those boys on their toes.
Like, anti-Valentine's Day celebrations in my house, just because it's so commercialized and it's like an impossible night to actually try to go out and eat or something. So we tend to do things like boil some shrimp and have a beer. One night we went to get wings. Like we try to think of the least romantic place, like Hooters. So that's actually what we do for Valentine's Day around here.
Well, in New York, it's such a competitive thing trying to get into the restaurants and get a reservation. You really have to reserve so far in advance that I started to do the Saturday beforehand. I would throw a party for my single girlfriends, and my roommate at the time was seeing somebody, but she wanted to throw the party too, and so we started sending out some invitations, and then word got out amongst our coupled off girlfriends who were like, well, would it be okay if we came to, I know we're part of a couple, but you're serving champagne and chocolate, and that sounds really, really nice, and I kind of really want a girls' night. Is that okay? And so it snowballed into this big thing, and I haven't done it for a few years, but maybe I'll have to revise it, and I'm sure that's fodder for some sort of romance novel. So.
Yeah! Oh, heck yeah. We actually, Nate and I met on February 12th and went on our first date on February 13th and started dating on February 14th. So we just roll it into one big thing every year. Hey, it's Valentine's Day. Hey, guess what? 14 years ago, we decided we were going steady. So hey, let's do something nice. We don't really exchange presents or anything, but it's a day where we have a drink and we reminisce over how odd it was that we got together over that weekend.
That's awesome.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of the kind of, I guess maybe I have a little bit more experience in terms of reading the stuff, but what would you see as the characteristics around, back to the November, December holidays, what are the characteristics around those holidays, and what potentially could you see playing into plots for those books? I know when I think Thanksgiving, I think hot mess of family. Whereas Christmas is a little bit more I love snowbound and stuck in a cabin together stories. I don't know why these people are in a cabin together, but it sounds perfect for Christmas. And to me, snow is much more associated with Christmas. So that's kind of my differentiation between the two holidays.
Well, I'm from Florida, so I don't ever think of snow in the holidays. Like, it just doesn't even occur to me because I didn't see snow until I was 12. But what I think of is it's present season. And so it's always this great implication. What is he going to give me? What am I going to give him? And what does it mean? Does it have some sort of symbolic meaning? If he doesn't give me the present that I wanted, does that mean that he doesn't really know me or really love me? And it could be all these great hijinks, or it can be really personal. And so I think presents are a great prime territory for the Christmas season.
I think so. I think the worry, I think new relationships and the worry about equality in presents. Like,
yes.
what do you get this person you've been dating like a month? Like, what's appropriate?
That is the worst feeling in the world, by the way. Absolute worst.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that could be ripe with, unequal gift giving. And what does that mean to a relationship, or that kind of thing. So I definitely think a lot with presents. I guess family is big. We touched on that earlier, but with both holidays, I think thinking about family and meeting family potentially for the first time, or there being strange traditions or differences between families. And I think it's definitely ripe for those kind of things.
Just the sheer number of people who've told me that Thanksgiving isn't Thanksgiving unless they have a specific type of stuffing, it always makes me laugh, because I'm now at a situation where, it's whatever they cater in from work. So one year it was Puerto Rican turkey and Puerto Rican version of, which I can never remember the name of, but this Puerto Rican version of tamales, which to me, tamales are very Christmas related, because I'm from Los Angeles, and so it's always been a very strong association. You get tamales around Christmas, and there are specific Christmas tamales. So, but no, I think that the idea of thrusting all these people into this room together and forcing even the uncle you don't like, or whatever the situation is, having somebody brought in from the outside, I love the idea of that with both Christmas and Thanksgiving. So my snow prejudice aside, which is laughable because here in New York, I'm from Los Angeles, and so anytime it snows at all, I'm just baffled. But it did snow in New York before the Thanksgiving holiday, and I was absolutely appalled, just completely disgusted by the whole idea. But
it's really early.
It's really early, and it's too early, and it's cold, and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. It's going to be 60 degrees tomorrow, and everybody's going to get their hopes up and be out in dresses, and then it's just going to plummet again, and we'll all be miserable. This is how it works in New York.
Yes.
You mean normal people don't take moonlight walks on the beach on Christmas?
Yeah.
No.
Although I'm going to be on a balcony in Los Angeles for Christmas, drinking a glass of wine and reading a book outside and getting a sunburn. So
nice.
Exactly. Well, maybe that's a good way to transition into kind of what are your holiday traditions? What do you guys like to do with family? Like I said, I do like the glass of wine on the balcony every Christmas and laughing at my friends who are in snowbound areas. What about you guys?
We're kind of in transition. My whole family has been in transition for the last couple of years, and I think we're finally getting to the end of it. So things are in flux a lot, but probably the thing that we like to hold on to is just getting together at some point by hook or by crook and seeing each other face to face for that few minutes or a few days, whatever it turns out to be, and and having a nice meal. Usually, we love food in my family, so everything revolves around food. It doesn't matter where you are; it has to be a nice meal. It has to be filled with good food, and the present exchange.
Yeah. It's funny we're talking about this, and I'm realizing I don't know that I have that many set traditions. But the Christmas book thing is definitely one. My parents have done that for years. I mean, when I was a child and all the way through adulthood, which I love. And of course, my dad, because he was a children's librarian, always kind of knows the best, the most beautifully illustrated books. So that's definitely one with my family. We kind of vary. We do the split holiday, meaning like one year we're with my family on Christmas and one year we're with my husband's family, which is nice. I like that. It's really relaxing. It avoids they live just far enough apart that we can't say, yeah, we'll do both in a day.
Right.
And so I really
You're
like
driving
that.
all day.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't do that. So that's nice. I actually really enjoy quiet Christmas Eves on the years when we're in town. My husband's parents are really close to where we live, and so we don't travel particularly when we're in town, and we're in town this year. So it's nice. And we got engaged on Christmas Eve. So yeah,
that's a nice story. I like that.
It is. It's a great story. And we don't have a specific tradition around that, but it's just always nice that morning to kind of reflect on that happening. We did go out for Chinese food after we got engaged, so occasionally occasionally we do that, but we that's not like an every year thing. But it's just a nice memory that morning to think about. Yeah.
I'm going to eat my words about laughing about people who get offended on Thanksgiving for not having their grandmother's stuffing. My mother is English, and so we always have the same, every single year since I can remember. We have a few food traditions, which are very strong in my family. We're also a big family of eaters and wine drinkers also. So we do the same Christmas dinner every year. It is always a standing rib roast and Yorkshire puddings, which we do once a year for Christmas because they are truly terrible for you. But they're one of my favorite things. They're just these tiny little savory puddings, basically, that are made in muffin tins, and use the grease or use the drippings from the roast. And they're, again, terrible for you, but they taste amazing. For Christmas morning, we always make, my father's a really wonderful baker, and he always bakes, and he's taught me to bake these sugar crisps that my grandmother made for him when every Christmas rather, and another branch of the family does the same recipe for Thanksgiving. So it's nice. It's a family tradition that we've kind of passed around. And the other thing we do is English Christmas crackers, which are not food, even though they're called crackers. Oh, you do those too, Lexi. Wonderful.
We do them every year.
I love them. There's a special thing every year, and even when I have worked Christmas holidays before, and even when I did that, I had to have Christmas crackers, and I had to have the sugar crisps on the morning of. Christmas crackers, if you don't know, look like giant Tootsie Rolls, and basically they have a very small firecracker snapper in them. They're paper, and you stand on either end, one person with one end, one person with the other, and then you pull them apart and they make a bang. You unwrap them, they're in foil, and you unwrap them, and in this tube there is a party hat, which is a crown, like you see in the Bridget Jones's Diary when she, says goodnight to her father, and she's wearing the paper crown. That's what that looks like. There's usually a toy of some sort or some sort of gift, and then there's a little joke that usually doesn't make sense unless you grew up in England between 1940 and 1972. So that's our other big tradition. The family always goes out and buys the Christmas crackers for the family. For Christmas Eve and Christmas morning and Christmas day, Christmas night dinner, I should say. And usually, there's some TV watching. I always make sure we watch A Christmas Story and the Blackadder Christmas Special and a couple of other things. But that's kind of all of our family traditions. Thanksgiving has fallen a little bit by the wayside because we just don't get together for it anymore since my sister and I are here in New York, and my parents are in Los Angeles. So.
I didn't even think about the fact that we do the Christmas crackers every year. My mom makes it her mission to find the nicest ones she can find.
Yes.
So that we actually get like this semi-decent toy that pops out of it. Like one year we got pocket knives. We were like, cool.
Don't let the
But we all
boys
wear-
have those.
Yeah.
That's
But we all wear
funny.
the stupid crowns. And then I forgot, we all have, when we open the presents, we all have a paper ball fight afterward. And
Oh,
it's
that's
an
nice.
all-out war.
That's
We
awesome.
have we have 2 dogs, so the dogs just go romping through the wrapping paper. They're very low to the ground. They're Bichons, so they're about that tall. They're very short dogs, but they really do enjoy going through all the wrapping paper.
It reminded me when you were talking about British traditions. I do. One year I happened to be in London, kind of near Christmas, and we discovered mulled wine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have this great memory of sort of being on the streets in London, sipping mulled wine from a vendor. And so I do often make mulled wine. But the funnier story is they were also roasting chestnuts and had vendors selling roasted chestnuts, which of course you hear about in the Christmas songs. And we felt very nostalgic about having these roasted chestnuts, and they were terrible. They were like horrible. They smell beautiful, and then they just really taste terrible. So we joke about that every Christmas, but the mulled wine definitely stuck. And we always have a holiday happy hour at my house, and I always make a big pot of mulled wine, and no one drinks it but me. But I love that idea and that concept.
Oh, and the smell of it on the stove is just wonderful too. So people
It's
should drink it just
amazing.
for that.
They should. But I always use a really inexpensive red wine because I know I'm probably not going to make it through the whole pot myself.
Right. You don't want to
Yeah.
waste anything really good.
No.
No, that's understandable. Yeah, we've never been an eggnog family, and my parents actually have never really been mulled wine people either, so I may have to bring that tradition up. I actually do like mulled wine quite a lot, and I think it comes from all the spices and everything you put in it. It just
Yeah.
smells incredible, so good associations with it.
Yeah, and it's warm and wine. I mean, it's amazing. It's like it fits the holiday.
Exactly. How about New Year's Eve? Any traditions with New Year's Eve?
Champagne,
Always a good
Yeah.
tradition for every holiday.
chocolate. Nate and I used to. We might have to bring this back. We used to do fondue for New Year's.
Oh, fun.
We would go all out with cheeses and chocolates and champagne, and it was delicious. And if we made it to midnight, woohoo! And if not, at least we had a really good end of the year.
Yeah, we used to, for multiple years, we threw a party. Like, we were kind of the New Year's party people.
Woohoo!
But we kind of transitioned that more to a holiday happy hour in the last few years, and we've let some other people kind of take that on, and it's really nice to go to someone else's house
Yes,
for
you don't
New
have to deal
Year's.
with the aftermath.
I was going to say, which really means it's nice to wake up the next morning in your clean house.
Yes.
Yeah.
New Year's is a real competitive sport in New York, and definitely I have thrown the New Year's parties. I usually do a warm up, and then because it's so unusual to be in somebody's apartment here, we usually go to a bar for the actual festivities. But we kind of gather people and then move them as a group because nobody ever shows up on time here, which I'm sure is pretty universal. But I usually do some sort of going out to a local bar. There are certain rules you have in New York. You don't want to go anywhere near Times Square. You don't want to have a taxi to get back home because you're never going to find a cab. You don't want to go below 59th Street, which sounds silly, but trust me. And so, you put on your high heels and you put on your sparkly dress and you go out and you dance. And usually you go somewhere with a $10 cover where you know the bartender, so you can go in anyway. And the big ridiculous New Year's I've done once, and I really have no desire to ever do again. So for me, it's so long as I end up around good people, I'm pretty happy, and that's about as far as the tradition stretches for me. High heels and good people and champagne. So.
And sparkles. I heard sparkles.
And sparkles.
Yes.
And sparkles. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to have some sparkles. Something.
Something.
So, and I do make it
Sparklers?
past midnight. I love sparklers, but I have not done them here, so
I haven't
I'm a little
either.
worried about burning somebody's apartment down. Well, is there anything holiday related anybody wants to add, or are we kind of wrapped up here?
I would just like to add that I had to switch to Stella for the end of our conversation because my husband came home and he's in finals and he begged behind camera for the last fat tire, and that's how nice I am.
Did we not see the begging? We may have to introduce. Nate is a frequent joiner to video chat conversations with Lexi and me, so we may have to one day introduce him to everybody.
Yes.
He can be the male voice to one of our romance topics.
I'm sure he would love it.
I'm sure.
We'll get him through finals, and then he can join in.
Exactly.
It'll be nice to the poor guy. All right, well, I think that just about wraps us up. So I'm going to do a quick whip round with whatever everybody wants to say promotionally. So you want to start, Lexi?
I have The Storm Inside out right now, Steamy Romance, and the follow-up to that, Reflected in the Rain, will be out by the end of the year.
It's really good, guys. I'm getting the first read on it right now. It's really good.
Nice.
Well, thank you.
Mary Chris, anything you want to promote?
Sure. Since we talked about it, my novella Delayed starts on New Year's Eve. So if you're looking for something to read that starts around the holidays, it's not a holiday novella, but features a holiday. And then, of course, characters from that are in my novel Never-Ending Beginnings. You can read them in either order, so feel free to do that. And Delayed is just 99 cents, so it's a great, quick read, something to kind of get you out of the holiday stress for a couple hours.
Yes, I recommend all of these books, all three of them. And if you feel like gifting them to your friends, that would be good too, because, you know, friends need good books too. I am bookless right now, but I do spend more time than I probably should on Twitter. I'm at _Julia_Kelly, like it says on your screen right now. I'm also at my website, Julia Kelly Writes, and all over Facebook and Pinterest, and I just love social media. So you can follow me on Tumblr and see all the things I do to occupy my day when the news is really slow. So I will be writing a little bit more about what I'm writing about in the coming month, and recommending a lot of books because I've just been blowing through novellas and novels and tons of stuff. So I can't wait till these ladies have new things out, and I can recommend those as well because there's some good things coming down the pipe. So we want to thank you, and hopefully you will join us again. I will be doing these, I hope, a little more frequently, and talking about all things romance, and then obviously deviating off topic and drinking lots of wine, beer, bourbon,
Always.
whatever we feel like. Maybe some mulled wine for the holidays. But anyway, so thank you, and we hope to talk to you again very soon.